Hello, good evening, and a warm welcome to this broadcast. This is a very special broadcast just for us, friends of Dumile Mateza, the late Dumile Mateza, to be able to celebrate a life well lived. My name is so humbled that you made it on time and you are here to join us in the broadcast as we go down memory lane with Dumile Mateza, everything that he did and everything that he said. Xa siqala le nkqubo ndiyafuna ke ukuxolisa for abantu abathile abasuppose babanathi e-studio tonight, and load shedding affecting them. I know that Bishop Andile Mbete will be joining us shortly naye apha akhoyo. I-load shedding ithanda ukuphazamisa. However, I'm not alone in the studio. I'd love to welcome a lady that is with me in the studio, and the two gentlemen that are already with us in the studio. We're supposed to have two ladies with us in the panel. We're supposed to have MEC Fezeka Nkomonye of the Eastern Cape Sports, Recreation, Arts and Culture. And she is not the only lady in the panel, also the daughter of Dumile Mateza, Ututula Mateza, who also is experiencing serious connection problems with the weather where she is currently. So I'm not sure if Ututula uzakwazi join her anymore, but that is her situation. All right. Okay. Let me also ask you to drop us a brief message. If you're watching on Facebook, you're watching on YouTube, join us a brief message of your memories with Dumile Mateza. While there will be the serious side of the memorial, as done by the friends of Dumile Mateza, but also there will be light moments, in the memorial. And you might remember also some of those nice funny stories, and that Raz Matas actually, in a way, something he probably said or something he also did. I have lots of those, and I will share them all tonight. Okay, I'll share them hopefully all tonight, but I'm not alone, and there are people that will be helping us. Let me welcome them in the studio. Litankombisa Utsana, he is with us, and he is joining us tonight. Tsana masikwamkele kule Friends of Dumile Mateza Memorial, live on Facebook and live on YouTube. Enkosi ngokuvuma. Bangaba kuthethwa ngamadoda aphile very close in Dumile's private life when he's not on television. I know it's people like you, and I know it's people like Iko Thomas. I know it's people like Lunga Williams. Abande bebephila nonala nondokose when he is not in the limelight. So enkosi tsana ngokuvuma.
Good evening to you and your audience. It's very, very impressive. It's very impressive.
Thank you. Thank
you. Before we continue, I'd like to say hello to Koliswa, Inkoskazi Mateza, and the girls. Hopefully they are listening. The extended family of Kwamateza from Ekarietio, Yongeni Tinaha, Yongena Kapa, Yongena Egautini, and this is Paluba Zongs in South Africa.
Lovely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, his name, as you can see on the screen, is Lita Nkombisa. Sazana, way back in time with incredible stories to share. Sisonge kulakwela Gauti. But let me also welcome Udixin Nula Uchezi. He is joining us as well. And he, at some stage, was Dumile Mateza's twin on the small box. And they were doing boxing together and a couple of other things. Chezi, enkosi kakhulu ngokuvuma mhlekazi wami ntoba sihlale kunye tonight kwezi channels on Facebook and YouTube, and just remember uDumile Mateza. Can you hear me, Chezi?
Thank you so much, Chawe. I can, but you know, as you were mentioning earlier, the issues around load shedding, which affects all networks. I have a bit of a challenge, so I'm struggling. I'm trying to juggle between two networks and see where I get the best signal. But we'll try and make it work tonight. But really, thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm honored to have been invited. And as we honor my dear big brother, the legendary Nala Dumile
Wow,
Mateza.
wow, wow, wow. Chezi, let me tell the viewers that are watching here tonight, I had a little bit of an opportunity, Chezi, kumhlobo wena FM, engibe sincokola ngoNdogose, and he told an incredible story that nearly got us all in the studio to tears about Dumile Mateza. What a passionate broadcaster, what a passionate South African, what an African man. And so we'll go through those stories here tonight, because that's what a memorial service is all about when we remember Dumile Mateza. Let me welcome the lady, the only lady in the panel tonight. We're supposed to have two ladies. Ututula, Dumile's daughter, is struggling with in network because of the weather. But guess what? The MEC, or Sport, Recreation, Arts and Culture, Bezeka Nkomonye, is joining us. Baugas, we call each other Baugas, and she's joining us tonight. Oh, okay. All right. I think Naye Baugas has a little bit of a connection issue. All right. So we're gonna be going now. There are people that have joined us already. Okay. Tunzi Kamaga uthi oyini madoda ubradi oyini Tami Martina City. There is no more to me than the one of Umtata Bucks, and a player whose father Mateza said owns a mortuary, and later said no, he actually owns a butchery. So yeah, we're going to be going through those stories, but maybe before, gentlemen. Oh yeah, okay, I can see there's somebody that's coming in. It's the MEC. August, if you can hear me, please switch your video on so we can see you, so we can welcome you. And that's the MEC joining us at the moment. Okay, while you're switching your video on, August, Felongantweni, the great golfer Paya Ikon, a city, rest in peace, Nala. Okay, Lala Deman Pakistan City, rest in peace, Datu Mateza. Okay, right. MEC, please, if you don't mind, switch your video on. I know that you got your nice hairstyle and your makeup is intact. Please show yourself up. Show yourself up. Okay, that's the difference between a sports MEC and an agriculture MEC. MEC agriculture in but not a sport. So MEC Sizambon. So switch your video on, please, MEC, so we can see you. Bulelo Mpaka, which I'm watching from Belcom. May his soul rest in peace. Maybe before we go any further, I actually was quite pleased with the levels of professionalism from Nala's family with the media story. MEC Utinaye in network imniga problems. There's thunderstorms where she is, but she hopes that it's going to get better, and then she'll be able to switch her video on and see Kwazi ukumbona. Bishop Mbete struggling with connection as well. Uti anganga kwazi join tonight because of the terrible weather where he is. All right. Okay. One of the messages that we received, and actually this message was an apology as well. Ulunga Williams could not be with us. We sent Undebe an invitation to join us, and what unfortunately was Banati, and I think he had looked at his load shedding schedule as well. But to me message Eti, if there was a send off that the state should have looked at, it is this one. That's what Lunga Williams is saying. If there was a send off that the state should look at, it is this one. A humble man Dumile Mateza was. and a knowledgeable man indeed. One cannot remember an instance where Dumile was caught napping. He had an answer, an immediate one, and a relevant one at that to an inquiry. And we will miss his knowledge. Begcwalisa isitya ngamanye amazwi ebephaka kwayena lo mntu uyi-one agcwalisa isitya ngamazwi abe ephaka at the same time. So says Lunga Williams. Ndiqala ngale kandebe ngebomi ke because these are the people, and I think Tana, now you'll agree with me, no cheese. These are the people, Olunga Williams, I said this to Robert Marawa last night. These are the people whom in the early 80s, looking way back, 1980, when Dumile Mateza gets his fingers on that contract, Yaba SABC Top Sport, then, I mean, he was 21 years. Not all of us get a chance to break it on television at age 21. He was 21 years old. Born in 1959, it means he was 21 in 1980 when he broke it to television. Gelo Klesha says high school, some of us, and some of us knocking at the doorsteps of varsity and trying to make our future bright with education. But here's a 21-year-old inspiring us already. It's people like Lunga Williams, Dumile Mateza, not all of Rodboom, people like Kansas Mkunu, Owayesuga Okozini FM, and he ended up with SABC on television, the first crop of black television presenters. And those people inspired us. They inspired me big time. And I looked at them and I said, if they can do it on television, it means television is reachable. It was people like Bobby Digilili and people like Dumile Mateza, abasenza nathi saqonda okokuba singafika kwi-TV. Who can ever forget Bobby Digilili and Lunga Williams on a Saturday night and Kansas Mkunu, those great television. These are the early pathfinders in terms of black television presenting and hosting in South Africa. And so we're supposed to stop at everything and salute them. Those that are still alive, and now we've just lost Dumile. So Lunga Williams then says, it would help us, South Africans, to be humble like Dumile. It would help us, like Dumile, to have a sense of professionalism and yet a sense of humility. Ukucaphula kwigqala lezo sasazo nelisele kumhlaba obandayo uDambile Thuswa ubefudula esithi uMpandlana kaloku impumelelo isentabeni kusheywana ngotyefezo kwintsapho yakhe esezinyembezini sithi mayithuthuzeleke akuhlanga lungehlanga lala ngoxolo nala lala ngoxolo ndokose. That's a message from a fellow pathfinder. That's a message from a broadcaster who started with Dumile Mateza. And I know that later you spending a lot of time with Dumile when he is off the screen. You probably have things that we don't know. You probably have things that Lunga Williams doesn't know. Mandi Satiti doesn't know. Dixon Mula doesn't know. And all of the guys in the industry, there are things about Dumile Mateza. Mhlambi nguwe ke nosixoliswa nabantwana abazaziyo ezo ihlelo ngonala gondokose. What is your memory like? I mean, take a good 5 to 10 minutes usibalisela, chap. Things that you believe that not only South Africans, but the entire world should remember and know about Dumile Mateza. Lita?
Thank you, Butpatko. You won't believe this, chap. About 5 years ago, Mateza started writing his memoir. all his stories, and he sent it to me for safekeeping. And I retrieved it when Ukolisa told us that Mateza was Shile this week. I retrieved it and I reread it again. It's 55 pages of the most amazing stories, his life, his early school life, his ups and downs at the SABC. I mean, I can just give you the topics that are there. In fact, the name of the memoir is Talk is Cheap by Dumile Mateza. And in there, you've got things like the technical draw at Sun City. I don't know if Dixie remember this. Maisela and Volbrecht. You've got Henny van Wyk. You've got stories on a passage to India. You've got his life in Port Elizabeth. You've got where he comes from. Later on, if you give you an opportunity, I will read an extract from where he was born in Karejo, his family there, and everything that goes with it. But let me not run ahead of myself, Butbatko and your audience. Let me start from the beginning and say to you that Mateza was extremely funny. Before I get to some of the funniest things and encounters that we had with Mateza, the first time I met Mateza, I was a destitute, underprivileged student at Wits, and ichomi yakhe enkulu ubhutiti inkonki Dimazela kwaseTinarha, family friend yethu apho sivela khona. They used to come and visit me eRes, dingena kutya, dingena nix, bandithathe bandise estadium eEllis Park, dlala iPirates and the Chiefs, ndiyibona for the first time ndivele eTinarha. It was just unbelievable. But singena eEllis Park asinane ticket, singena dzwabha past the security guard. All they do is to flash identity that allows them access everywhere. It was just one of those amazing times. Dandivunywa ke on the basis ba ndihamba nabasasazi abakhulu. Hey kwakumani ngemini zami ke pha. But asikho apho ke. So since then we formed a friendship no Mateza. His days at Dara House. I don't know if anyone remembers the Dara House. We used to, from a Dara House where he used to live, we used to walk across the street to a Kohinoor Records. Indirecting ama record in a CD as imported. It's the first time Dibona album ka Anita Baker, Diamo no Mateza. And we are in Kohinoor for free, but I test by engineer. If you are time, you are if I time, you are buis. It's the first time diva nge artist wangu Pet Metheny group adlala amagita. Pet Metheny group uBobby McFarren nalamfo kubani konje lo piano, what's his name konje, nalamfo piano dambona pha kwaMateza duqaleke mnaki. Then Mateza introduced us to that community as a Dara House and nakwa Budlunga. Ulunga was invited one December. Songena kwi rooftop yakhe phi town. Yayingekho into engekhoyo up. It was just unbelievable. But let me get to the funny part of Mateza. So many years ago, Mateza used to work at Transnet, and he was responsible for the radio station Yapaya community. I think it is an in-house radio station. So one day, boss yake, I'm not going to mention his name, Hlambu mamele up. Boss yake iti Mateza, ndicela ukubona. So Mateza epa whistling to the off scene. Everything is working well. Athi Mateza hlale phansi. You know, on Saturday I was with my daughter, and jebe ndihleli daughter yam. Iti, Daddy, is this not the man that works with you? Avula iTV nangu Mateza qaqathaqa pheze phoyo uDr Khumalo waste izanto zakhe. So athi Mateza usebenza apha eTransnet ngoku. Andifuni lento yakho yase SABC. Ne? Mateza phakama behleli phansi ne encumile aphakama Mateza. Athi Anzobizigam. But so and so, why don't you switch off your TV if I put on the TV? Switch it off! 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 I mean, it's extremely funny. In fact, as a story, Mrs. Balisa, the last time Sibona Mateza in September, Siobugeli Rugby, Sibizwe Ngulere Conjona, at Dikeni. There were 3 matches, Kalango 8, New Zealand, Australia, is Springbok. I mean, there were so many matches that day. Safika Pango 8, Sasa, Samkango 3 in the afternoon. So, Sahla again, Mateza. One of the stories that we were laughing about says the story. So, Mateza had a funny side about him as well, which is amazing. With your permission, I just want to read you a short extract from the memoir that Mateza sent me. Let me just get my story here, right? So I'm gonna start here. It reads as follows. For the purposes of the book, we are going to concentrate on the Gundu Mateza part of the family. Gundu had 4 children, 2 girls and 2 male children. Zolile, the eldest, Vuyelo, also known as Liza, or Tukis, Mbulelo and Nonsikelelo. I'm the eldest son of Tukis, but I never knew my father until much later. My mother left me when I was still a toddler, and I grew up calling my grandmother and grandfather father and mother. This is where my roller coaster story starts, in this dusty town of Kariedo. One last bit, which is fascinating. I'm not too sure when I started school, as I'm also not too sure when I was born, but I later settled for 1959. I'm gonna stop here. The story continues. Like I said to you, his life at SAPC, his ups and downs, when they fire him and call him back, all those things. Mateza usbalile apa. The story is just riveting. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna ask Okaya Raga. Bayabhala Mosokaya. I think we're not 3 already. Kaya, what can we do with the story for the family? How can we enhance it? Because as you yabona ba bengakaqebi besa ubeke nje headline. Abhale pa Alibaga, abhale Henny van Wyk, abhale Barcelona, which means besizawugqibezela with the passage of time. So Mateza again was a voracious reader chap. Apha kum ndiphethe incwadi. Ngoko besipha eDikeni restaurant phaa kwale Rekontshwana. Mna ndiphume nencwadi apha ethi Ezompindo zeTsitsa, AC Jordan. Ulere kuyazithengisa phaa izincwadi. Enye incwadi yakhona is Imibengo. Nomateza uphume nazo, ndiye ndazithatha nasathatha 1 each. And one of his favorite books, Mateza, is ndiphethe apha Mostert, Frontiers. This is about the encounter of Amaxhosa with Abelungu who were coming in. Another favorite book yakhe ke beyithanda kakhulu, Lega Andre Odendaal, a story of the African game. It's about the history of South African sport in the 1800s, cricket and rugby. And then one last one I want to highlight is A History of New Brighton. Le ncwadi ibhalwe ngu-Gary Baines. So Mateza, like I said, was a voracious reader, and he loved his books and he liked debating about them. For now, I can declare up and then start later on.
Wow, thank you, Tana. Thank you, man. I mean, sure. I'm trying to, and I'm battling. I'm trying to keep my tears back on the injustices of apartheid ezazibanga into yokokuba abanye bethu. You have to gamble to know who your real mother is. And you have to gamble also to know your exact date of birth. And I must say later, I'm hearing it for the first time, ukuba nalo 1959, uDumile just settled for this 1959 thing. I think what actually touches me most is the fact that he had begun writing his book. Somehow, from a distance, I knew Dumile uyabhala. As much as I know, and I was aware that uDixie uyabhala. So when I was writing my book, I was aware that there are other giants of the industry that are writing their stories, how they landed in the industry, the good side, and sometimes the bad sides of how the industry treated them. I must say also later that I'm embarrassed that I hold, and though I hold it with pride, that I hold the award of being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Ndandingowokuqala ke ngoko from the Eastern Cape. Bekhona abasasazi abangcono abafana noDumile Mateza. And perhaps ezi zinto, they came at a time convenient for us to be honored with induction to the Hall of Fame. uDumile, as far as I'm concerned, probably could have been one of the first 5 to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, kubasasazi base-Eastern Cape besiXhosa. After Otata uDambile Thuswa, Theo Mcinga, Given Klebi, Peter Bacela, Fikile Lubisi. Those giants were supposed to have been inducted into the Hall of Fame alongside with uDumile way before Tina Sfige Kuzo. And that's why quite often when I think about it, I say I don't deserve it. There are better people. And tonight, you know, when I hear what you are saying, that uDumile ushiyele incwadi, and I think njengombhali who has published a book, we need to talk about how we complete the story. If there was a piece he was going to write about Ali Bacher, we probably would need to interview Ali Bacher and say, Ali, how did you relate with Dumile? Because in his book, he wanted to write about you. Did you upset him? Did you excite him? What is it that you did to him? And so that we can attempt to get into the first person and continue to tell the story with the permission Kakobo inkosikazi yakhe nabantwana bakhe. So thank you so much, Nita. This is amazing. This is amazing. And I knew from you we would hear stories, Gonala, that are hardly known, because all we know, Tina, in the industry, Unkabi Peshapia, Unkabi Peshapia. Wake kwati SABC ku Top Sport zakufaka chase. Uko, and now I got there, was quite young actually. About Martin Locke, you know, about Trevor Quirk, and then there was Omden and no Zama Masondo and the great Dumile Mateza, and ubethwa ke ngoku kwezi editorial meetings kutikishwa usage of specific sports terminologies that relate to specific sporting codes. And njengoba kutikishwa nje, uMateza is leading the discussion, and he says that, you know, it's very important that you don't confuse what you score in rugby is a try, and you must not confuse this with what you score in soccer, which is a goal. In rugby it's a try, but in football it's a goal. In tennis it's a point. Like in boxing it's a point. In cricket, it's a run, you score a run, and you cannot confuse these. You know, it is as important as knowing the players, you know. And so there was there was this old white chap in the meeting. He says to the chairman, he says, I'm very sorry, Mr. Chairman. I keep hearing Mr. Mateza here in this meeting referring to something. Maybe my English is not very good. I hear him talking about pressure power. Pressure power. What is this nonsense about pressure power? and, and the chairperson, Trevor Quick, takes it back to Mateza. He says, Dumile? And Dumile says, no, Mr. Chairman, this chap is making a mistake. I'm not talking about pressure power. I'm talking about pressure power. Pressure power. It's not pressure power. It's pressure power, meaning over there in Kosa. I got it in Kosa. In Kosa, meaning over there in Kosa. Oh, Mateza. Chezi, you've gone to places. You've gone to places, no Mateza. You guys, there's a picture of you, Nisija Lunch, next to the boxing ring, no Mateza. And when I saw this picture, I just assumed probably you guys were, you know, at a break or between, you know, the various fights, and maybe there was those in a bout bakhona fighters they were live. If many chance but you've been to places with Dumile. He was like your older twin brother when it comes to boxing. Just tell us what came to your mind when you were first paired with him, and how did this pairing come about? And what did it yield, particularly to you, so young? And what did it yield? And what do you remember about this? Cheers.
Chawe. Zawuqala pha kule picture ithetha ngayo. Phaya umkhulu wami nami kaloku xa sifika kwi-production kuzawubakho i-main fight. You will know that the main fight those days is going to be at 10 p.m.
So sorry, Chelsea. Tutula has just joined us. Dumile's daughter is in the house, and I'm glad that Tutula you were able to find indawo in a network. Ngasuki kuloo ndawo ukuyo. Zakunceda loo ndawo, chap. Hlale kuloo ndawo.
No problem.
Wonderful. Okay, Chelsea, please go ahead.
Molo Tutula. Well, uzawuthi nqa ababhuti mntaka baba bahlekisayo. No, we're here to celebrate the great Dumile Mateza. No, Chawe. Now, just to put in context the picture, we are in that specific picture. I know we were in Mafikeng, about to broadcast a world title fight between Baloyi and Malcolm Klassen. So you'd find that before production, there's time for us to have dinner because, you know, broadcasting boxing was a marathon. I mean, I spoke to you, the city, Umkhuluwa had amazing stamina for broadcasting. We arrive at the venue at about 5. Fights will start at 8 p.m. And so we do the undercards at the time. And at 10 p.m., we're going live. And as you would know, as a broadcaster, 10 p.m. is the real showtime. And it's the time we have to shift the gear up. And yet at the venue, we've been at it for a good 2 hours. So, I just want to pick up Chawa Mkhuluwa on something that Lita said before I get into your question about would Dumile and the relationship with the SABC, and sometimes is in and out of the SABC, etc., etc. That for me, it showed this staying power. And I wouldn't call him a comeback kid, but it showed the staying power. That it's not necessarily how many times you fall, but it is about how many times you keep coming back up. And he would be coming back to his first love, which I really truly believe was broadcasting. So, similarly to the sport that him and I were broadcasting, there's something called a knockdown in boxing. A knockdown is when a boxer has been dropped by a punch. He's on the canvas. Okay? A lot of things happen, and I've been told many things about that moment, which we really quantify as 10 seconds towards a count out. That you can live a lifetime in that 10 seconds. But for a boxer, when they come back to their senses, being counted, the referee is not saying one, the referee is usually saying 4 or 5, depending on where the count starts. But what it is about really is that you are dealing at that time with trials and tribulations of your life. The question is whether you will be able, your legs can carry you back up. So the knockdown in boxing really is an opportunity to get back up again. And I think that that was the spirit. And that's why he would come back to the game over and over and again, because he was a born broadcaster, excuse me. And he was. And he was a special broadcaster of a special kind. You mentioned the thing about the Hall of Fame, and I'm hoping that there will be an opportunity for us to talk about this disease we have in this country of not celebrating our own people. So let me get into your question about how we get to be in the ring or at ringside together nomkhuluwa. Ebendisithi mhlekazi xa ndimbiza ngoba bendingenaso isibindi sombiza ngegama. Bendingemva kakhulu kuye. So what happens is that I joined SABC Sport to do a few things. My first year there was broadcasting rugby. Then I move into boxing. I find Bert Blewett there. Bert Blewett, by the time I find him, is probably 2 years away from retirement. And he is replaced by Loyiso Budloyiso Mtya, another legend of this game called boxing. So when Budloyiso leaves to become director of operations at Boxing South Africa, then there's conflict of interest. He can't be commentating boxing while he's also playing a role as a regulator. And Dumile has been making a comeback, broadcasting other sports, and he comes back into boxing. So when he gets back in there, between the two of us, you know that at ringside there's got to be the main commentator and there's got to be an analyst. So we can't both be commentators in the real sense, and we can't be both analysts. Otherwise, the show doesn't go on.
Yeah.
So he comes in at the time, and I guess he was natural at this thing, and we just clicked hand in glove. And I assumed the role of being an analyst because Umkhuluwa was colorful, was personality, was a bunch of different things, and I could stay technical, and he was going to take it a notch up. He was comic at ringside. He was funny. We were going to laugh. We were going to do a lot of things that normal commentators wouldn't ordinarily do. So that's how our journey starts, is that we end up at ringside, and I think we were not really necessarily given specific roles, but we made it work in our own way, because I think that it was meant to be like that. So the last part I would like to say is that, so it was an honor for me to sit next to him, because I had been watching him from my days at high school, through my days at university, through the days I'm starting broadcasting, and to sit next to him and then have to learn the things that he was doing, preparing for any specific broadcast. We will talk about what everybody has talked about, just how much preparation he put into his work, Dumile. I'm on a pause at that point, Mkulu.
Yeah, Chezi. Thank you, man. Thank you. Dumile was remarkable. And I don't know how he was at home. Fortunately, Ututula is here, and she will get an opportunity to tell us the kind of person Dumile was at home as a dad, and you know, if he did set the fires up like he did to the rest of the world, you know, and before we knew Figile Mbalula as Razmataz, the first Razmataz we knew, Tina, was Dumi. And so, and so there I was, a radio Xhosa then, way back. And I remember in the studio, crossing over, no, Dumile is at Ellis Park Stadium, Kudlala Paya, Parrot, the Swallows, the big game, Soweto Derby. And it is starting in Dambunam, this studio. Ndambo zonke ngokusizawuziphosa e-Ellis Park Stadium khona umsasazi wethu pha uDumile Mateza uRazmataz. Yo, nditsho kubani litha ingene laa nto ithi undibiza kamnandi mfana kamafani, ndibiza kamnandi xa usithi Razmataz. Undibiza kamnandi xa usithi Razmataz. The only rugby commentator in 1995 World Cup final, Amabhokobhoko in New Zealand, who would do so with, you know, action until there's a dead ball. Swing a ball, I puma from the scrum, puma nescrum off, yocho fly off, Joel Stransky, being a centers, bele bola. Either until Yokoro Oganye until Ifele Bola, but Klo action he won. He was the only one who would commentate the action in 3 languages. I calling English, as a Nayonge English, a change a switch and Xhosa. Abanye basasas basathule, a change a switch into Afrikaans. Benayo, and that made Dumile to really endear name in the hearts of millions of South Africans. Millions of South Africans. Land Martina Simona Nguge Ellis Park, Amadla Gusha, Edunyelwa, Clavudlala, Unkalagata. Ay, aqala dunyelwa nguRazmataz. Kungekadlala uNkalakatha ngo. Uphi the following year, ngo-1996, e-Atlanta kwi-Olympics, kudlala i-semi-final eyayijongwe lihlabathi lonke in football kwi-Olympics. Brazil was playing Nigeria. And so everybody wanted to see this game. And the SABC deployed clear coverage for SABC deployed Brian Mulder. And some of us will remember Brian Mulder. And there was Brian together with Dumile. They were paired together for this particular coverage. Oh, Brian Mulder. Why no more? Namosu Brian Mulder, more. And so, Angena Kala go Brian. Hey, waka. Wacho, Brian, wacho. Barely 5 minutes. Oh, Brian, I'm Sigelu Mateza. Wacho. Barely 10 minutes. It takes like barely 10 minutes. Brian, hey, I think babemxelela na kwi-earpiece, but no, give Dumile a chance. Kanti ngela xesha uBrian asasazayo, umane ehamba engena kwi-potholes ze-mistakes. uMateza uyabhala ke zonke ezi mistakes zikaBrian uyazibhala. Finally, when Mateza had his turn, yangena laa nto. Now uMateza ke, and I think Ulita alluded to this, not Dixie alluded to this. Preparation, research and preparation. Lots of research. Yangena laa nto. Finally. And to make sure that uBrian akazo interrupt, yambetha ngesiXhosa. Athi ya, qale silungise qala yonke le nto ibithethwa apha le. Le ndawo sikuyo le dolophu esikuyo apha kumatla Atlanta idolophu ebizwa ngokuba yiSandford. I saw Stanford le ndawo yiSandford. Ungamameli le nto ithethwa apha. Secondly, lo mdlali weBrazil onxiba ujezi number 9 igama lakhe nguJuninho. Juninho ayingoJazinho, ungamamele nto zithethwa apha. uJuninho la mdlali. wahamba naye ngolayini. I mean, that's Dumile. That's Dumile. You cannot, and I don't know if this is a life lesson or what. Those that are watching and viewing will conclude. You cannot mess up in an area where somebody else excels and think that you'll get away with that. When you sit with somebody that masters something, I mean, Utumile, Dixie, wasn't there a main bout that you did, the Orient Theatre, no Dumile, and there was a Colombian boxer there fighting a South African boxer? Give us the story. There's something fascinating about that particular story.
In his autogokala, just to refer back to Lendoka Brian, yeah, go on. Mostani pa ringside.
I know Brian, you know what, champ, Brian.
Brian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know Brian, you know, go Brian.
Kaloku landede ba xa iswitcha ebethetha isiXhosa sokobo.
Yeah.
Esiya sokuqala. Xa izawuthetha isiNgesi, everything is impeccable. Aswitche angene kwisibhulu nalapho uzawufika umbone into yobana awunakwazi umfundisa nto because he knew his story. Now, I want to say that I think nasasinelakhi kule ndawo into yobana xa sesifike sayitim was about collaboration, was about really hard work and making sure that also the relationship and the way we work is really seamless. Phaya ngenye imini ndihamba naye umkhulu wam sisazaza umlo on a box ephuma eColombia. Okokuqala into eza kuphinda ikuphazamise just about how fascinating he is as a fan, as a fan of sports. Because the fans ziyayazi team yazo. Ebeyazi subject matter yakhe umkhulu wam. We're at the Orient Theatre the one time, and it's the first time I noticed this thing that when there is an international bout, obviously when there's an international bout, there's going to be national anthems. Singena sonke mos.
Yes.
Singena sonke xa lo wethu uMobe wesizwe uculwa Nkosi Sikelele Africa. Ufumanisa uba ngoku xa kudlala lo uMobe wesizwe welinye ilizwe of the visiting boxer. Le ndedeba yodwa apha eholweni of thousands of people ecula lo Mobe wesizwe waseColombia. Izawuba njalo ke noba kufika ibhoxer yaseRussia okanye yowaseMexico, and you just wonder. I am just in awe of this giant standing next to me, singing on top of his voice, and there's nobody else in the hall singing. You know, I mean, that's just, but one of those things that shows you, he was really immersed in his subject matter. But xa ethetha ngale mbethi magnet, uthi lo mfana waseColombia uphuma elalini ethile eColombia.
Sure.
Utatakhe pha eColombia unevenkile kulaa lali iseColombia. Azibale ezi zinto, azibale nkomba yey. No. I did my research myself. Bendiyenzile research. But umkhulu kwenye level ngoku.
Yeah.
And ubali details ke ngoku uzakubalela nodade wabo uba uzalwa kweyiphi indawo. Ezalali because kaloku neliphini ilizwe linayo ilali, linayo township. Kodwa, the thing about it was that ebefuna ukufaka in the backstory of this specific person that he's
Yes.
talking about.
Yes.
So that it's
Yes.
not just about, that's why I've been the city. He was an excellent painter of pictures.
Yeah.
The theater of the mind, he took it to another level. I mean, we were on television, but that's not on camera, it's off camera. But it's just so fascinating that he can bring all of that back into what's happening up on your screen.
Wow.
Amabali
Wow.
about him. Singabalisa de kuse.
Wow. Wow. Cheze, thank you so much, man. Thank you. There's somebody that I'd love to welcome to the studio. When we could not get Bishop Umbete, we got ourselves Bishop Maponga. And he, the one that will wrap it up with the word of God, like any other memorial service, so that Klasilila Kuklungu, singamanala, singondokose, sive indoba, uthixo uthini na at a time of pain like this. Okay, I'm just going to welcome Bishop Maponga. And then after that, ndizawuza kuthuthula, and we get to know ba ekhaya unala. I hope MEC ukhona so that singayi kwintshumayelo ku-MEC engangenanga. All right, singayi kwintshumayelo ku-MEC engangenanga. All right. Okay.
But before I need, before serious Silile Sichumayele, there's one very funny story that I want to tell, but I'm waiting for you to give me that permission.
Yes. Please, please, please.
So you guys are talking about Mateza's love for broadcasting. So many years ago, at SABC, Mateza Dizwege, head of sport. Mateza, you are such a valuable person, Apakuti. We think that your talent is such that you must train all the new up-and-coming broadcasters. Sicela managers to train them.
Yo.
So double your salary. Athi Mateza, Jan? Happy that he's getting this opportunity. Aphinda abuye back ngespeed athi ndizaphuma eTV. Kuthi kaloku imanager abantu abaphuma eTV wena kuzophuma eTV. Wathi yekani. So then one last one, promise you, it's the last one. Can you mean sinepati kwamateza Hellingham akumandi man DJ uyachopa. So abantu bamane bengena ebathroom kaMatheza for indlu ngasese. Apha ebathroom akho perfumes ngekhoyo apha. I-Ted Lapitas, you are the fire, dibala ntoni na. So caba omnye umuntu ungene pha ebathroom wazifafaza ngala nge-Ted Lapitas kaMatheza eduru. So ngoku sijayiva besekuleni caba iyavakala uMatheza uyiva ngevumba i-Ted Lapitas yakhe apha esekuleni. Wahamba wathi DJ cima umculo. Kubani lo uzifafaze nge-Ted Lapitas yam apha? Hey, kusafuneka sinukisa abantu apha. Bangubani oziqaphe nge-Ted Lapitas usiphelisa ngepati. Zange afunyanwe lo muntu but ivumba lalijinga apha epatini le-Ted Lapitas. Mandiniyeke apho ke.
But I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Somebody stole my Ted Lapidas. I can smell it in the party. Someone stole my Ted Lapidas. But man, but no, somebody stole my Ted Lapidas. La Ted Lapidas is 350 rand. Hey, Maramateza, chance. Yeah, ne. Well. Tutul, I don't know. Umateza Apekai. You know, I want to give you an open tender, Tutula. You know, to just tell us about him at home. And then maybe you can also share, you know, what the plans are. Like now we're having this Friends of Dumile Memorial. And when we say Friends of Dumile, it's not just the five of us in the studio. It's everybody out there, you know, who can connect on Facebook and YouTube, you know. So yeah, Tutula, let me hand over to you.
Thank you so much for having me on your platform today. I'd like to greet Uncle Lita, Uncle Dixie, people that I've grown up with. My father was a lot. He had the loudest laughter in the room. He was the funniest guy. Worst person to sing with because his voice overpowered all of our voices. Um, my father was just, my father was stubborn. My father was very stubborn. If he wanted something a certain way, it was his way or the highway. So my father at home was very, as much as a teacher as anyone can be. Um, when it came to subjects like history, my father was well rounded up when it came to history. So my father was a bookworm. So every book in this house that I live in right now has been read by him. So of course, one history question would never end up with one history. Would go on to what happened before that.
Yeah, I think we do have a little bit of a struggle with in network. Tutula. Okay.
Am I
It looks
back?
like you're back now. Yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
you're
so
back
I was
now.
just saying, so history lessons were an everyday thing. Some of my fondest memories with my father would definitely be the drives down to the Eastern Cape. My father would, there was a story for every single town that we passed. It doesn't matter how small or how big, we always got a history lesson on each town. So we'd know which famous people came from each town, any controversy that happened prior, and so forth. So driving down to Cape Town, Eastern Cape, anywhere, my father was well rounded up with that. But other than that, my father was always the sweetest person, as much as he was stubborn. Like one fight with my father, as long he just forgets about it in 2 minutes. You guys will argue, have a heated conversation, but after a while, my dad is back to calling you Mdanam, Mhlekazi, and so forth. So my father was definitely a person to be reckoned with. As much as he was the so-called celebrity that he is, we never felt that pressure in the household because my father didn't really bring work home, but rather left it outside, and he was just himself with us. Yeah, I think that's about it on my side.
Wow. Wow. Thanks to Tula for sharing, you know, those moments. Ifana naye again misa at every small town and whatever, and tell stories about that particular place. And I think Ulita did touch on the fact that Udumza was passionate about history as Xhosa, particularly the royal house. He was very passionate. He also was deep with literature, yes, Xhosa. Abantu abaninzi bacinga ukuthi Dumile Mateza was deep with English and Afrikaans, but you know what? He was well grounded with Xhosa sakhe. I'm not surprised that he leaves behind a daughter, ngegama likaThutula. And I hope he gave you a background because there's lots of rich background in literature as Xhosa with Thutula. And I hope and pray that he did tell you who Thutula was with literature is Xhosa.
Of course.
Yeah,
It's
I knew it.
it was never a thing you could miss. I mean,
Yeah,
everyone knows the name
yeah.
Tutula is one of the biggest names in literature. So
Wow.
my father always told me that, it's always cliche that fathers call their daughters my little princess, my queen, and so forth. But my father took it to the extent of naming me after such a troublesome princess in Xhosa literature. So my father is definitely unique with that. I mean, I'm not troublesome, I try my best. But my father definitely hit it on the nail when he named me Tutula. My father was very proud of both me and my little sister. He definitely made sure that we knew where we came from. Xhosa literature is something that he grounded well within me because my interest in Xhosa folklore was because of my father. So, like Uncle Lita calls me Nongqawuse, I know the history of Nongqawuse, and I don't know why Uncle Lita calls me Nongqawuse, but as
Hayi,
Kolabo,
Litha, umntana.
um, I've got everything from King Williamstown, Queenstown, Cala, Ngobo, like the whole Eastern Cape is pretty much well rounded in my head. I mean, I could write a book on how my father, especially, you see, living in South Africa with load shedding, the load shedding was the perfect time for Dumile Mateza to tell us a story. Yo, umdozele ekhawutshini, my dad would wake us up athi awumamelanga. So we'd have to wake up simamele loo. And I mean, as much as sometimes they would drag, I mean, my father could talk for hours and hours. I mean, we definitely learned something. My father was very articulate as well. So, us speaking English, Afrikaans, is Xhosa, it was very difficult to have a father that was articulate in all three languages. And you're just articulate in one. I remember a time, I think I was in grade 2 when I first went to the Eastern Cape, like properly. I couldn't speak isiXhosa, and I was totally miserable. Utata mebesithi bana, like awumameli bendichilo ba funda isiXhosa, and it was definitely hard to balance between English and isiXhosa while going to an English medium school, and then you go home and utata uzathetha isiXhosa like fully. So it was definitely something my father taught me very well, and as well as to be just humble in whatever you do. I mean, hard work,
Mm.
perseverance was definitely my father's biggest mottos. Like, it doesn't matter what you're doing, um, research, reading a whole lot of books. I mean, my history assignments, it doesn't matter if it was due in a week. My father would give me 3 to 5 books to read on just one question, and I still have 10 other questions to do. So my father was
Sure.
very much he very much enforced the grounds that he stood for in us.
I don't know, Tutula, if there were moments when uh, he would play music in the house and end up singing the very same songs that he's playing. Did he do that quite often?
My father, he made the most noise, okay? He'd unuse volume on the music that he's playing. Then he would sing louder than that volume. Now, there was no way you weren't going to know these songs. I mean, my father, from gospel to jazz to contemporary. I mean, at some point, my father was listening to a new age artist named Nasty C. Now, when your father is over 50 and is listening to what I would listen to, it's definitely something. I mean, learning, I mean, obviously along the way, my father he had a specific set of songs that he would play. So from George Michael was definitely one of his best
Yeah.
artists. I
Mm.
mean, from
Mm.
I Can't Make You Love Me. Yo, my father, especially when he's had a little bit one too many. That was his #1 song to go to. He sang that song from the top of his lungs. My father was very much carefree. Like, as much as he was very well within his right, he was very carefree when it came to things he was passionate about, and singing was definitely one of them.
Wow, wow. Well, because of time, I'm going to bring in the MEC, and then from there we'll go to the bishop. But I need to tell this story, and that's why I'm asking you about this singing thing. That's why I was asking you. Moons ago, I had a flat in Yeovil. And those days, Yeovil was still an upmarket, you know. And Dixie lived with me at some stage, Yeovil. So would JB Mali, Lunga Kepe, and a whole lot of my friends, Monde Konza, you know, and Abolita would come, Abu Tiko would come, Dumile would come. Then we would go to Wits University at Jubilee Res to go pick up our friends. You see, we had friends at Wits. So we would go pick them up, you know, and they would be with us. And we would then try and make sure that we have fun. And then, Mateza. Then, Mateza, I would make a mistake of playing Boys to Men, End of the Road. Then, and then, Mateza, uzayithatha la End of the Road louder than is playing, to the annoyance of our friends from Vets. To the end of the road, and I turn. Gala Pavarotti yakhe. Jonga, Mateza ebenenye Pavarotti hectic ukodlula uPavarotti self.
Mateza.
Mateza nina man. Mateza nina.
On that song, Mateza, long before nizalwe nina Tutul. Why lahle cherry yakhe ngalangoma? End of the road.
Sure.
Why rewind to start where it says, I don't love you anymore? Why rewind? And then he drove off.
Yeah, Tutula. Mateza nina.
No, I know my father my father was a bit of a womanizer. When he wanted my mom to do him something, the #1 nickname was Sweetie. When he said Sweetie, you knew there's something that Dumile wants.
Oh man. But I must say, on a serious note, I was actually humbled. I don't know, Tutula, if you know this painful episode in Dumile's life. I was humbled when he said to me, Mafani chap, I need you to come and MC the burial of my young boy who drowned in a swimming pool. Later, you were there, Sasise 4 Ways, and we went to the 4 Ways cemetery to bury a young boy, Nyanaga Dumile, who had died in a swimming pool. One of the most painful experiences. Painful. Ndabona apho mna kwaDumile into kokuba ibuhlungu into yokuphatha ibox yomntwana. I mean, ibox yomntwana iba white ngekhala, uyibambe wedwa. That's painful. It was the only time, the only time I saw pain in Dumile's eyes.
Yeah.
And we learned a lot. We learned a lot. And I remember somebody saying to Dumile, be glad that kubazali abaninzi who never had a minute with umntwana ozalwayo abhubhe same time when you had 5 years. 5 years to bond with your boy. Somebody said that to him and he brightened up, Mateza. And somebody said to him, you had 5 years, you multiply 5 by 365, it will give you those kinds of days you had to bond with your child. Kwabebe khona abazali who lose umntwana or abanye engekazalwa nokuzalwa, abanye azalwe afe, but you had 5 years. Oh my goodness. I wanna invite the MEC now. She has a message to deliver on behalf of our government, particularly in the Eastern Cape, because Dumile Oksalayo is an Eastern Cape boy. And MEC Fezekanko Monye Sibizana Baugas. Baugas, you're gonna switch your video on so that I bring you in, and after her message, then Bishop Maponga will wrap it up with a sermonette. I'm hoping that Baugas is still here. Yeah, she is here. She is here. Baugas, it's good to have you. At least you're not the only lady. Tutula is here, and she's been killing us with Daddy's wonderful, wonderful stories. And I hope you heard those stories and every aspect of our tributes. But I want to hand over to you. Thank you for agreeing. Thank you. You have no idea what you've done to the family Dumile Mateza, Utoli and Abandona Bak, and all of us, the friends of Dumile, by agreeing that a government, even a message as our Yenza memorial, friends of Dumile. And I want to hand over to you now to convey your message of condolence to the family. Over to you. I'm battling to hear you. I say that unmute, but for some reason there's another mute. I say that you unmute when, but still asikuva. Am I the only one on bio colleagues?
No,
yeah, Nana Nimva. Yeah, Nana Nimva. Okay. There's something you got to try. There's something you got to try. There's something you got to try. Maybe even if you disconnect and reconnect again while I go through the messages. Spiwo Balman saying, he refused the promotion with a raise in salary because he will no longer be on television. Well, Kuchage Spiwo Balman, and says Summer Strand upper a becha. But you'll shout at me when we can hear you, but so far Askaguba. All right. Looks Hideout. The following is a true story. Teza. Okay. Oh yeah. Uti Teza's only told me once would refuse to re-narrate whenever for others. Only he could. It's a story I suspect started the entire broadcasting career. Okay, I didn't get my hand on that one. All right. Kulimendile, may his soul rest in peace. Pradumza. Okay. All right. And then what a legend. Somika Zimlandile says, what a legend. And my late dad used to adore him. We will listen to sport till the end. At that, my dad had an Omega radio, and I had to make sure that we have a backup battery just to listen to Dumile commentating sport. Yes, Pradumza loved you. In fact, he loved SEK Mkai umbhali wencwadi zesiXhosa, something nice with Dinana. Each of a Facebook page yak. Nonzokazilanga city. Don't forget arguments over remote control and Malume wanting to watch news all the time. Okay, somebody was reminding you, and okay, so nice messages, and I know that people can see these from home. Okay, now the MEC is reconnecting again, and the bishop is on standby as well. All right, let's see. Because I hope this time we can hear you. Let me add on the bishop as well, so that we're all in the studio. Okay, I love it like this. MEC, can you talk to me now? Let's see if we can hear you. Oh my goodness. Why is this happening now? We can't hear you. We can't hear you. Maybe it's the device, Baugas. Maybe it's the device. If you're using a cell phone, maybe you can try your tablet, or you can try your laptop. Okay, maybe it's the device. Yeah, maybe it's the device. We still can't hear you. We still can't hear you. All right, while you're sorting yourself out, I want to welcome Bishop Maponga. Bishop Marara Maponga, you're so far, Clat. kuphela kweBishop enesiduko ke lena madodana kuhlathi lo ngujambazi ngumfene uBishop Maponga. And Bishop Maponga MEC uyasele ngena esibethele vote of thanks ekugqibeleni. I want to hand over to you now, and so that you deliver this short message to the Mateza family and all his friends. Over to you.
Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity tonight to share a tribute for our legend. I met him late. I think I met him sometime towards the end of last year on these cultural meetings, and we got some pleasantries and exchanged some words, and we giggled a bit. Ndimkhumbula nami pha kweziyana nsuku zangamva namba bafana bashayibola nento ezinjalo ndithi hey nangu tata uthetha isiXhosa ngesilungu, you know, but he created his own narrative, and we will forever remember him. I would like to comfort the family with the words, a very common passage found in Philippians 4:4 to 13, which reads, "Rejoice in the Lord always, and again I say rejoice." That passage speaks of maximizing on every moment. Let the moments of our lives be punctuated. Let the moments of our lives be paragraphed with joy. Not always in terms of pathways, but always in terms of timelines. Let your joy not only be in traveling, but let your rejoicing also be in terms of the time that you're spending. Rejoice in the Lord always. And again, I say rejoice. Take note, when Paul recites and he repeats, again, I say rejoice, he is insisting that even when it means that you cannot be happy, rejoice again. It also means that after you have been happy, try and take it to another level. Again, I say rejoice. Then comes the beautiful part which says, let your gentleness be evident to all. Ubuhle benu, nobuthakathaka benu. What can I say? Your gentleness. Kuthiwa ngesiXhosa phana patiko. Gentleness. Intoni ngesiXhosa pha.
Ngobunono.
Ubunono benu buvakale. Ivumba lobunono livakale yonke imihla. Ngamanye amavi intokozo nenjabulo yenu ayibe nobunono phakathi. See, there's a difference between being happy and arrogant and being happy and humble. You know, let your gentleness be evident to all. You want to know the reason why? Because then the scripture says, because the Lord is near. There's a totally story pa, nami njenge storyteller. Ndise primary school kwenye imini, ndiyaxabana nomnye umfana pha esikoleni, ndithi ndizokubona after school. Ndizokubona wena siyoqeda indaba sizoyiqeda indaba niyasiyoqeda ngesiXhosa. Ndiyabona loo nto. Ndiyamlinda phana ngasegeyithini angavele umfana amke abaleke through the back of the school. Unfortunately, on a Sabbath morning, we were cycling to church with my father through the location. Then I saw the boy, and he saw me. My father was behind me. I was in front cycling my bicycle. And when I saw the boy, I had unfinished business with him. And I could not stop to go and attend to him. I had to keep on going. The only thing I could do was to pick up my finger and point at him. My behavior was regulated by the fact and the nearness of my father. In other words, in the presence of my father, I could not do certain things which I could have done if I was by myself. Rejoice in the Lord always. And again, I say rejoice. Let your gentleness be seen by all. Why? Because the Lord is near. In other words, cry like your father is near. Get angry like your father is near. Be humble like your father is near. All it means is that you are in constant parental observation. Let your happiness, your sadness, your sorrows, and your pain be considerate of the fact that you are not in isolation. You are in divine company. Let your gentleness be evident to all, for the Lord is near. But should you feel like the Lord is far, through prayer and supplication, make your request known before God. I'm on verse 9 and 10. Make your request known before God. In other words, you still have an opportunity, even if you don't feel the presence, to send your requests through prayer, through supplication, and through thanksgiving. The Lord will know how much you are missing when you give the little of what you have. Then I love the last part. That is where my brother used to be working in, right there, Mateza. You know, and the peace of God that surpasseth all human
All understanding
understanding will guard your mind's styles of perception and your heart's styles of affection in the love of our Lord. Now, take note that Tate Mateza worked in the media space, so he worked in the divine space of influence, where you're able to affect people's perceptions and affect people's mindsets, affect people's directions, and affect people's ambitions. And the peace of God, which surpasseth human understanding, may guard your minds. Even as I speak to the family, let this peace that is above human understanding, where they are saying you should be crying and you found with a smile, where they are saying you should be laughing and you are found with a sad face, where they are supposed to be rejoicing and you are found with a sober face. It means that you are being governed by something slightly above human understanding. And this peace, which is above human understanding, must guard our minds, must also guard our hearts. In other words, if the affections of men are not managed, they are bound to help to make us commit suicide. If our minds are not circumcised by grace, they are bound to run away with us. But the peace of God, the shalom, the presence of God, does not mean the absence of trouble. Shalom is the peace in the midst of it all. Let this peace that is above human understanding guard your minds and your hearts within the love of our Lord. It's my prayer that as you are going through this difficult time, let this peace be the harnessing power of your minds. Let it also harness your hearts. May peace be above you, upon you, around you, behind you, under you, and towards you. May the favors of God lean gently towards you. May your prayers be very close to your hearts. And when you cry, may the divine presence offer you comfort. Let this grace and let this peace be with the family and the greater friends at large. Until the grand morning. I thank you.
Thank you, Bishop Maponga. Wow. Wow. The peace that surpasseth all understanding. A message leyo to the Mateza family ondokose onala anishiya nayo Bishop Maponga uhlathi esithi let that peace find you. If you cannot find it, let it find you. Ikulandele ipeace kaNkulunkulu wethu, ikulandele ipeace. Siyabulela kakhulu mfundisi, siyabulela kakhulu. Usiqinisile nathi. Let me also convey the last word of apology on behalf of the MEC. She has tried connecting. She has tried everything. MEC Fezdegangomonye, we understand. Thank you so much for attempting it. We have now come to the end of the Friends of Dumile Mateza Memorial. Tutula, are there any announcements in terms of, has the family finalized what other services are coming, including the big one, the funeral, in terms of when it would be? Over to you.
I don't want to confirm anything right now. My family will send out a press release as to confirming all the dates. I can confirm though that the funeral will be on Friday next week at the Bryanston Methodist Church. But as for memorial services, I'm not 100% sure. So do await a press release that will be sent out by my family.
Well, thank you. Thank you indeed. You've given us very positive indicators. Thank you so much. Well, we've come to the end of the service. Thanks to Ulita Nkombisa Tsana, siyabulela kakhulu. You just touched on other aspects that were hidden to all of us. Chezi, thank you so much for taking us back to ringside. Nonkabi Pesha. And indeed, it can only be Dumile Mateza who would trouble himself by learning a national anthem of a visiting athlete or team, so that it can only be razzmatazz. Thank you so much, Chiz. Siyabulela kakhulu of these wonderful, wonderful stories that you have told. Siyabonga kakhulu. Well, to you folks, those of you that sent messages and those of you who were sharing messages and experiences, Dumile Mateza, wake wathi uNkabi phaa eMthatha Independence Stadium, ndamazi umonge rhula uNkabi, utatakhe une-mortuary, ayikhona une-butchery, monge rhula mdlali we-bushbucks, phesha pya, Nkabi, phesha pya. Thank you so much. Good night, folks, and thank you. God bless you. We will be waiting for the directions then from the family in terms of further family statements, official statements about ezinye services, including another memorial ebendivile ngayo, and also the details about the funeral. Thank you so much. Good night, folks. Thank you. Goodbye.